In Zen and Stoic philosophy, silence is not emptiness, it is depth. The most profound realizations often come not from spoken words, but from stillness, from reflection, from the quiet understanding that some things are better left unsaid. There is an old Zen saying, "The sound of rain needs no translation." Likewise, forgiveness does not always need words, explanations, or even acknowledgement. Sometimes the deepest and most transformative form of forgiveness is the one never spoken, the one held solely in the heart. But is silent forgiveness an act of avoidance? Or is it a profound recognition of impermanence, of inner peace, and of our own liberation? To explore this, let us step into the story of a man who learned that true forgiveness is not about changing the past. It is about releasing oneself from it. In a quiet village, nestled between rolling green hills, lived a potter named Haru. His hands had shaped thousands of vases, each one delicate, each one unique. Among them, there was one vase that was special to him. It was not the most beautiful, nor the most expensive, but it was the one into which he had poured his heart. It had taken him months to perfect. Every curve, every detail a reflection of his dedication. One evening, an old friend visited Haru's shop. As they spoke, the friend, in a moment of carelessness, knocked over the vase, shattering it into countless pieces. A look of horror crossed his face. He turned to Haru, waiting for anger, for blame, for punishment. But Haru only stood there, looking at the broken shards. His friend stammered, "Say something. Shout at me if you must." Haru simply smiled, swept up the broken pieces, and said, "It was already broken." Confused, the friend left, unable to understand why he had not been condemned. And yet, Haru did not need to voice his forgiveness. He had already let go. Buddha once said, "Resentment is like holding a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. To forgive in silence is to refuse the coal." It is not a dismissal of pain, nor a denial of wrongdoing, but a choice to no longer carry the weight of bitterness. When we are wronged, our first instinct is often to seek justice, to demand acknowledgement, to ensure that the other person understands the pain they have caused. But in doing so, we chain ourselves to that very pain. Like Haru with his broken vase, we can choose to accept what has already happened without demanding anything in return. The moment we release our need for justice, we free ourselves from the suffering it brings. But letting go is not always easy. Many believe that true forgiveness requires an apology, a conversation, a moment of reconciliation. But what if that moment never comes? What if the person who hurt us never acknowledges what they did? There is an old Zen story of two monks who traveled together. As they reached a river, they encountered a woman struggling to cross. The older monk lifted her onto his back, carried her across, and set her down. Hours later, as they walked in silence, the younger monk finally burst out, "Why did you carry that woman? We are forbidden to touch women." The older monk smiled and said, "I set her down at the river. Why are you still carrying her?" Forgiveness is much the same. We believe we need closure, but in reality, we often hold on to things long after they have passed. True forgiveness does not wait for acknowledgement. It simply lets go. Silent forgiveness does not mean allowing others to continue harming us. There is great wisdom in walking away from those who do not respect or value us. However, walking away in anger is still a form of attachment. A bird does not hate the branch it leaves behind. It simply moves forward. If a relationship has become a source of suffering, leaving is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of wisdom. But to truly be free, one must leave without malice, without the lingering shadow of resentment. To walk away with peace is the highest form of strength. In the depths of our suffering, we often believe that our pain defines us. We replay the betrayal, the harsh words, the broken trust, clinging to them as if they are a part of who we are. But Zen and Stoicism teach that everything is transient. No feeling, no anger, no sorrow is permanent unless we choose to hold on to it. Imagine dropping a stone into a lake. The ripples expand, but eventually the water returns to stillness. Our hearts too can return to stillness if we allow them. The Japanese practice of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold, teaches that in healing we do not erase the past. Instead, we honor it as part of our story. To forgive silently is to fill the cracks of our hearts with wisdom rather than resentment. One morning, Haru gathered the broken pieces of his vase, and rather than discarding them, he created something new. He melted gold into the cracks, not to hide them, but to make them beautiful. His friend, upon hearing this, returned and asked, "Why did you not hate me for breaking it?" Haru smiled and said, "The vase was already broken. I only chose how to put it back together." And so it is with our hearts. Forgiveness is not about returning to what was. It is about finding peace in what is. Though silent, forgiveness has a profound impact. When we let go of resentment, we move differently, speak differently, live differently. We become lighter, kinder, freer. Those around us notice. They too begin to question the weight of their own burdens. One act of forgiveness ripples outward, touching lives beyond our own. At the heart of forgiveness lies impermanence. Nothing lasts. Neither pain nor joy, neither betrayal nor resentment. When we grasp this truth, we stop clinging to the past. We stop waiting for apologies that may never come. We stop seeking closure in places where it will never be found. Instead, we find peace in the present, not because we were given it, but because we chose it. There is a Taoist saying, "When the wronged one forgives, the wound heals twice." Forgiving in silence is not about the other person. It is about setting ourselves free. It is about walking forward without the weight of what was.